on my driveway.
No, no, it's just all.
So they put me on steroids.
Town out, the place where it melts.
Basically, you gotta have day one.
Good talk.
I said, well, before you come up here, will you talk about the house?
No.
Congratulations. Come on.
5:30, I'll call this meeting of the City Council to order. If you can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Move next to roll call, Ms. Aldrich.
Carolyn Pearson, present. Richard Trader, present. Brian Garrison,
Present.
Dale Stewart,
Here.
Mike Shaw.
Present.
Today we're discussing internal controls to start off the meeting and then moving to building codes. The last meeting, internal controls were produced. That document followed the city of Frankfurt's internal controls. I believe Councilwoman Pearson has asked for internal control ordinance, which more closely follows the city of Crawfordsville's. I believe Clerk Treasurer Aldrich has provided you with a copy of Crawfordsville, Monticello, and West Lafayette's internal controls. So the ordinance before you today, following off of Crawfordsville's, is ordinance 2016-23, I believe, adopting the State Board of Accounts internal control standard for the internal control policy of the city of Delphi, Indiana.
Okay.
Whereas pursuant to Indiana Code 511-127E, the Indiana State Board of Accounts develops and publishes the Uniform Internal Control Standards for Indiana Political Subdivision Manual. And whereas the Uniform Internal Control Standards for Indiana Political Subdivisions Manual contains the acceptable minimum level of internal control standards, and whereas pursuant to Indiana Code 511-127G, after June 30th, 2016, all Indiana political subdivisions must have its own local policy regarding internal controls and ensure that personnel receive training on internal controls. And whereas the City of Delphi Common Council finds that the city's policies regarding internal controls should be the internal control standard set forth by the State Board of Accounts Uniform Internal Control Standard for Indiana Political Subdivisions Manual. It is therefore ordained that the city's policy regarding internal controls is the internal control standards as set forth by the State Board of Accounts Uniform Internal Control Standards for Indiana Political Subdivisions Manual is expressly written. It is further ordained that this ordinance takes effect upon Common Council's passage and adoption. It is further ordained that this ordinance supersedes any internal control standards of the city of Delphi previously adopted. This is the first reading of ordinance 2016-23. Do we have any discussion on this ordinance?
I move that ordinance 2016-23 be approved on first reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2016-23 on first reading. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Reminder, Delphi Code states that all ordinance shall be read in 3 readings. Indiana Code states that we need a 2/3 vote of all elected members after unanimous consent of the members present to consider the ordinance on the same day as introduced. So could I get a motion to suspend the rules?
I move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 2016-23 on second and third reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to allow passage of the ordinance on second and third reading. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that ordinance 2016-23 be approved on second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 2016-23 on second reading. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that ordinance 2016-23 be approved on third and final reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2016-23 on third and final reading. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move next to building codes. Discussion on those. If I may, use the privilege of the floor, I prepared a statement on building codes. There are no objections. It's a long one. So around 1750 BC, over 3,000 years ago, Babylonian king Hammurabi enacted one of the oldest deciphered codes in the world. consists of 282 laws. 6 of those concern the liability of builders in relation to the building of a house. Law 229 states, if a builder build a house for a man and does not make its construction firm, and the house which he has built collapses and causes the death of the owner of the house, that builder shall be put to death. In Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 8, believed to be written in the late 18th century BC, states, when you build a new house, make a parapet around your roof, so that you may not bring the guilt of bloodshed on your house if someone falls from the roof. Around 300 400 BC, Socrates was constructing a building and is quoted as having said, he shall set the joints against each other, fitting, and before inserting the dowels, he shall show the architect all the stones to be fitting, and shall set them true and sound and dow them with iron dowels, 2 dowels to each stone. Moving forward a little bit, in 1189 AD, London's first mayor passed an ordinance called the Assize of Buildings, providing for safety measures and quality of life measures, including passage of light, party wall construction, sanitation, and rainwater collection and discharge. Later in 1212, after a fire in London, the London Assizes Ordinance provided in part, whosoever wishes to build, let him take care, as he loveth himself and his goods, that he roof not with reed, nor rush, nor with any matter of litter, but with tile only, or shingle, or boards, or if it may be, with lead, within the city and port soaken. Also all houses which till now are covered with reed or rush, which can be plastered, let them be plastered within 8 days, and let those which shall not be so plastered within the term be demolished by the aldermen and lawful men of the venue. On October 17, 1791, President George Washington, advised by his Secretary of State, Thomas Jefferson, promulgated the terms and conditions for regulating the materials and manner of the buildings and improvements on the lots in the city of Washington as follows. The outer and party walls of all houses within the city shall be built of brick or stone. Skip through some of this. The wall of no house to be higher than 40 feet to the roof in any part of the city, nor shall any be lower than 35 feet on the avenues. No vaults shall be permitted under the streets, nor any encroachments on the footway above by steps, stoops, porches, cellar doors, windows, ditches, or leaning walls, nor shall there be any projection over the street other than the eaves of the house without the consent of the commissioners. In 1860, the city of New York appointed the superintendent of building and provided staff for code enforcement. Looking through the state of Indiana from a cursory search, I found political subdivisions from Allen County, the population around 350,000 people, down to Bunker Hill, whose building commissioner recently resigned. I saw on, I believe it was the Kokomo newspaper, with population around 880, some in between. The Indiana Fire Prevention and Building Safety Commission is established by the state legislature in Indiana Code 22-12-2-1. States that the Fire Prevention and Building Safety Commission is established. It consists of 11 members, 9 of whom shall be appointed by the governor. The term of the commissioners is 4 years. The state health commissioner or the commissioner's designee shall serve as a member on the commission. Each appointed member on the commission must have a recognized interest, knowledge, and experience in the field of fire prevention, fire protection, building safety, or other related matters. The governor shall consider appointing individuals to the commission with experience in the following: a paid fire department, a volunteer fire department, the field of fire insurance, the fire service industry, the manufactured housing industry, the field of fire protection engineering, as a professionally licensed engineer, building contracting, the field of building 1 and 2 family dwellings, as a professionally licensed architect, the design of construction of heating, ventilating, air conditioning, or plumbing systems, the design or construction of regulated lifting device, city, town, or county building inspection, regulated amusement devices, accessibility requirements, and personal experience with a disability, underground and above ground motor fuel storage tanks and dispensing systems, and there's others. Currently, from the website, the commission consists of representatives from an architecture firm, the Indiana Department of Labor, the Indiana State Health Commissioner, the National Fire Sprinkler Association, an architecture and engineering firm, and Noblesville Fire Department, a home renovations firm, an architecture, planning, and interior design firm, a general contracting firm, a forensic engineering and consulting firm, and a housing developer and general contracting firm. Indiana Code 22-12-2-2, which establishes this commission, was last amended in 2005 with the passage of Senate Bill 56-2005. That Senate bill was introduced by Senator Robert D. Garton, a Republican Indiana senator who was first elected to the Indiana General Assembly in 1970 and has the longest tenure as the President Pro Tem of the Senate, going from 1980 to 2006. That commission adopts by reference the Indiana Building Code the International Building Code, I apologize, with certain revisions this commission makes. The first edition of the International Building Code was done in 2000. It was the culmination of an effort initiated in 1997 by the International Code Council. On May 19, 2016, the Indiana University Bloomington Newsroom noted some of the fastest growing cities and towns in Indiana are Whitestown, McCoursville, Brownsburg, Westfield, Bargersville, Winfield, St. John, West Lafayette, and Seymour. Of those 9 cities and towns, all of them have building departments. On April 29, 2016, President Obama signed a proclamation naming May 2016 as National Building Safety Month. In that proclamation, he stated, maintaining the safety and resilience of our homes and buildings is imperative. By using disaster-resistant building codes and standards, resilient construction materials, and safe and performance-based design methods, we can safeguard the workplaces, houses, schools, and other facilities that provide us with space to grow, live, and learn. In November of 1972, then Governor of California, Ronald Reagan, signed into law Senate Bill 277 requiring all California communities to adopt minimum energy conservation standards for all new residential structures that are heated and mechanically cooled. In summation, for millennia, leaders have implemented laws and regulations in respect to building and construction and the builder's liability for faulty workmanship. From ancient Babylon, the Greco-Roman era, biblical times, the Middle Ages, the establishment of the United States of America to today, governments have recognized the need for safe buildings and structures. The Indiana General Assembly recognizes the need for building regulations and established the Fire Prevention and Building Safety Commission to promulgate administrative codes. The law which sets the manner in which the commissioners are appointed to this commission was authored by the longest tenured President Pro Tem in Indiana history. 9 of the 11 positions on that commission are appointed by the Governor of Indiana, Vice President-elect Mike Pence. In that commission, the interests of fire departments, architects, engineers, developers, and general contractors are represented. I would respectfully ask the council for the opportunity to put together at least 3 options for the enforcement of building regulations. I believe some of those options could involve interlocal agreements with other political subdivisions in the county, as I do not wish to use time and resources of the cities and others if the council is not to, go forward with the enforcement. I would ask the council today to express their willingness to hear and consider options for the enforcement of building regulations at the April 3rd, 2017 City Council meeting. If the majority vote is obtained today, I will initiate the accumulation of documents and forms from other building departments, talk to individuals who have experience working with locals and building codes. I will accumulate budgetary information from other political subdivisions within the county for ideas on how an interlocal agreement could be reached, and the budgetary and financial information from political subdivisions which require building permits outside the county. Today I ask solely that the council express its willingness to hear and consider options so I may proceed, knowing the efforts of myself and others are not done frivolously. Thank you. I will now yield the floor. Council.
Well, definitely everybody knows I'm for it. Point of issue, IAC, Indiana Cities and Towns Association, has put in their last few magazines all about coding. Their emphasis is on updating everybody's code and so forth. I think we have a lot of misconceptions on what having a building code does. The majority of repairs, maintenance, you don't need a permit. So what most people get done is only structural type things. So it's if you're building a new house, you're putting a room addition, you would have to have inspection. Replacing a furnace, putting a roof on, replacing windows, siding, you don't need permits. I think everybody in their own mind has been misled. I was a contractor for 30 years in Delphi County. Had to have it all, bonds and everything. We never had problems. As long as you know, a builder should know, or a remodeler, what the rules are. And if you know, there's no problem. So, I mean, I don't know why we're fighting it. Some people say it's political, but I don't think it has anything to do with politics. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Councilman. The floor is open.
I guess my input on it all is that we're struggling to get over a hurdle of some type. what I would ask of the councilmen that are not in favor of that is if they could share some light on what it is that they need to make this work for them. And maybe, hopefully, that would be what you could produce by April, so we could see different avenues of which we could work and what we could do, and hopefully get their input what it takes to make it work. Because I have to agree, I don't see where it should be such a big one. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman. Floor is open.
To the public?
I will
Not yet.
rescind the time due to, certain things. So I will take the floor of
Can everybody turn their mics on?
I do, we already know that.
You'll take the floor later, Councilman?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from the council?
It was my understanding tonight's meeting was for community input. I did not know that we were scheduled to decide on action.
What I asked for is just an indication of a willingness to work together and to hear ideas and options. I believe it was a work session scheduled amongst the city council. And I believe we will hear public comment after the council has had an opportunity to speak.
I think most of us are willing to listen as long as the information that we're projected to receive is not biased, that it's true and friendly to the community, that will work to promote growth. And so I'm willing to listen.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council? Hearing none. Public?
Well, can I start out?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to recognize that today, under the extreme cold conditions, I noticed that a lot of people that feel strongly about these issues, that they're not here today. And so, I know we're doing a work session, but it is probably the temperatures too. And a lot of people are here, but just to state that to start with. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Royal. Mr. Ryder?
What I'm concerned about is possibly getting something that is progressive, that is oppressive, and doesn't promote growth. A friend of mine recently purchased a house in Lafayette, Indiana, that had been sitting empty for 7 or 8 years, and the electricity was off, and so he was required to immediately, get a permit to work on the electricity, and the minimum in Lafayette, I'm told, is like $200 to get a permit. And Dick, I'm not sure where you're coming from on that, because my friend explained to me that according to the code, if you move a 2x4 or do any kind of, the Lafayette code says if you do any kind of construction whatsoever, then you need a permit. And you need, roof repair. He put a new roof on the house. That's one of the things he did. Had to get a permit for that. So they put a new furnace in the house. They had to get a permit for that. They, go ahead.
Unless they've changed in the last 2 years since I stopped doing it. I mean, to say when I did it, you didn't. You didn't have to put a furnace unless you changed the size. Structural, anything structural that you changed. If you replaced windows and didn't change the opening, you didn't. But if you changed the opening, you would. Yes.
Well, what they felt like after the experience, they were, they hoped to do a lot of the work themselves, but then the approved electrician list came up, and the approved plumber list came up, and of course, they were not on that. And so they ended up spending, $300 for the permit total, and they spent 2.5 months. He told me today that the project is 2.5 months behind schedule. He said it took 20 days after they submitted a application for a permit. It took 20 days to even get the permit so that they could start work. That was the backup in the city. And so, it's, I as a landlord, it's difficult enough to be in the rental business and deal with the people problems that you have. I don't know how,
Well, I was in the rental business too, but he could have acted as his general contractor. He didn't have to hire an electrician as long as he had to have it inspected, as long as he knew what he was doing.
Okay, well, I guess he misunderstood that part of it, because he called several people that he knew, and they said that they weren't interested in coming into Lafayette and doing that work. I called a plumber today from Carroll County, and he said, and you all know his name, he's a good friend of yours, he said he's not interested in going into Tippecanoe County to do work because of the oppressive, and he's a licensed plumber, I mean, he's a guy that puts in water heaters and everything else for my mom. So that's the worry, and that's the fear. The other thing is, I know we're trying to be safe, and I think there may be some middle ground here, between where we're at and where we're going. From what I understand, in Carroll County, we don't even have a code that requires for people to have a smoke alarm in their home. And so I called the city of Florida today and asked them. I was just sure that they did have an amendment in their budget, or in their work, that they had to have a smoke alarm. And the lady at the city office, Mrs. Tinsman, told me that she didn't think there was any kind of requirement to even have a smoke alarm. So it seems like we're going from not even required to have a smoke alarm, after this terrible tragedy, and now, we're looking at adopting, what I understand is people are talking about adopting this Lafayette thing. Is that true or not true, or?
Well, it's already adopted.
Okay.
Back in 1992.
All right.
It's 675 of the Indiana Administrative Code, Articles 13, 14, 16, 17, 19, 20, maybe. There's a minimum standards established by Fire Prevention and Building Safety Commission.
So I guess the difference is with my friend, the code enforcer came to the house and said, hey, drop the hammers, stop work, whatever. So anyway, that's what, I mean, that's where this is leading, is having code enforcement that, and I wondered if we might have some sort of voluntary agreement, with people and landlords that we might agree to, when I rent a house and I have a lease, Shane, and you and I sign the lease, we have something that we go around the house and we look at the smoke alarms on every floor, and I sign that, yes, the smoke alarms are there, you sign that smoke alarms are there, and I keep this on record, and start with something like that. I mean, we all want people to be safe, and that's just my thought. Could we look at something like that as you guys progress along with this program, and that was my thought.
We had a study group that was appointed by the council, and then it was ignored. It came up with a lot of those things of phasing things in and having things in. And I agree. I think that's what we talked about, is phasing things in, and it's a safety thing. It's not trying to penalize anybody. I mean, you're not going to. Basically, what most of this is new construction anyway.
Okay.
I mean, I got rentals too, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I bet what happens in Lafayette is, my friend told me today, 90% of the people you see walking into Menards, they don't get permits for everything they're supposed to. And the reason he got a permit, in all honesty, was because the neighbor turned him in for doing the work. And then the code inspector came out and he shut the job down. 2.5 months later, he's finally getting, into the situation. So, that's you know, I just don't want to end up with something like Tippecanoe County myself that is so impressive that people don't ever go get, they don't ever go get the, you know, the process, the permits that they're supposed to get.
Well, the mayor has given us 10 different cities around the area and what they have. And
Okay.
some are real extreme and some aren't, so that's what we're kind of looking at. And I think all he's doing is asking to come up and have citizens involved and come up some, how do you start it? Right now, we don't do anything, like you said. We don't do anything. And we've had certain, not only the fire in Florida, we had one right north of my house 2 weeks ago. The house burned down. And, I mean, that's not to say you're gonna stop things from burning because they're older, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But when you do a total remodel, then you're up to code, that type of thing.
Right.
You know, and you gotta phase it in, I agree. There's no way people are gonna be able to.
You know, and along with that though, the Hispanic family that's house burned, I mean, for the last 2 weeks, you know, their 17-year-old son's been living in my house, in a spare bedroom we have. And the reason is his mom can't find a suitable rental house, or she wants to purchase a house.
Right.
There's nothing available, you know, either to rent. You know, she needs a 4-bedroom house in King County, either in Florida or Delphi, because she works at the hog plant and the kids go to Delphi. And so, you know, there's a real shortage of rental property. I think there people text me, if I put it out on Craigslist, they text me night and day, you know, until I say it's rented, you know, whatever. And so, you know, we don't, you know, Carolyn, you're talking about growth. We don't want to discourage growth there, and I agree with that. But, you know, in like Peoria, Illinois, I know they had a very strict code, and people just didn't buy houses in Peoria, Illinois to rent. It just, you know, everywhere around there, you know, that's fine. But people will do, you know, they'll head towards the least resistance.
I understand, but I mean, I think we have to start someplace. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, like I said, we do nothing. It's on the books, but we don't do anything.
Thank you.
Mr. Ryder? Other public comment? Yes, sir.
You said licensed, insured, and bonded, so does that mean any contractors that this is passed is gonna have to be licensed, insured, and bonded to work in Carroll County then? or how's
Well,
that?
it depends what we come up with. Some counties aren't, but yeah, in Lafayette, you have to be.
Right, well.
I mean, there's no, look, in Indiana, there's no license except for plumbers and electricians.
Exactly.
Okay?
That's why
General
I was just-
contractors don't. You go to Florida, someplace, California, everybody has to have all that stuff.
Right, exactly.
So, you know, we're not talking about that.
Well, and that's what I didn't know, because I mean, there's a lot of contractors that can't, you know, won't do that in Tippecanoe County. I mean, Tippecanoe County, I mean, you know, to be, depends on how you look at it. I mean, if you go with their license, they want a contractor, a mechanical license for a year is $145, a plumbing license is $150, a special contractor's license is $100, and then a general C allowance, which is residential construction remodeling up to 3,500 square foot, is $100. So, as a general contractor, you have to pay for the 4 licenses, which is going to cost you $475.
Well, if you're gonna do all those things, right?
Right, yes,
Right,
exactly.
right.
So, just like,
Well,
And
and
that's-
again, we're at the point, we're not saying we're gonna do that,
well,
you
I
know?
understand,
You know,
I'm just trying to figure, you know, as a contractor, we do a lot of work here in town, you know.
yeah.
for all of
I was a
us.
general contractor, but I didn't get a plumbing or electric, I have people that did that.
Right,
So
see,
I
that's
didn't
what
get
it does.
that.
I mean, I'm not a licensed plumber, but we have a licensed plumber that.
Right, that's the way I did,
So
right.
we work under his license, we do the work,
Right.
same way with HVAC, I mean, we have, you know, licensed guys.
We don't wanna be restricted, but like you said, there's a lot of guys out there with a truck and a ladder and a hammer, they're doing this work. And a lot of them don't know a lot of what they're doing
Right,
too.
I mean, I've been doing
And
this for
that's the
30
other
years,
thing,
I
you
mean.
kinda helps to justify that somewhat, you
So
know?
then your inspections, what would they be, you said on just remodeling then, or how's that work? I mean, new construction?
Well-
Under Tippecanoe County, I mean, it's 2014, for their inspections, they do a fitting inspection, electrical tent pole inspection, foundation walls, interior plumbing, floor slab, electrical slab, railing, electrical tapping, electrical.
That's new
roofing.
construction.
That remodels too.
Well, if
And
you're
I'm
doing an
gonna-
addition or something like, yeah,
Well, I
okay,
mean,
right,
well,
right.
Is
But-
things
but-
gonna be
but-
grandfathered in?
but-
I mean, we
yes,
got old buildings
yes,
here, will
yes,
things like that be
yeah.
grandfathered in, how will that work?
It would only apply to construction alteration, repair, in addition to all buildings and structures other than industrialized building systems, so.
So like if you go into a complete remodel, though, you gotta bring everything up to code at that point in time?
I believe so, yes.
Because I mean, like egress in Tiffany County for a window in a bedroom has to be so many cubic feet. You have a 3 foot by 5 foot 3 window in a bedroom. So if we're going in and doing a complete gut out and remodel and stuff, at that time of point, then do we got to tell the homeowner that we've got to pull these windows out, bring them up to egress, so that we got enough CF for the fire department to get into the window and things like this? Or
I'm trying to think, I glanced through that section
Pull out or
of the International Building Code 2 days ago, and there's provisions for historic homes where the building commissioner can state that it's cost prohibitive or something like that to address the ingress and egress. Mr. Wagner, probably know more than I do.
When on the windows for egress, it's not required unless they're doing a substantial work. Now, if you got the inside gutted and the outside's all stone, it would be too cost prohibitive to bring that window up to the current code.
Right.
If you've got vinyl siding on the outside, chances are it's not going to be cost prohibitive if you're already completely gutted on the inside.
Okay.
One thing the building code does do on a remodel like that, when you start gutting rooms, 50 years ago, they didn't know what fire sealants and draft stops were. So we've got a lot of old balloon frame homes within the community. They're all over the state. Fire starts in the basement, it goes straight to the attic because of the way it was built.
Oh, yeah.
There's
So
that's why you want to inspect those homes. You want to get these life safety features in there.
But now, like, what about all the parks? Like, a lot of these old buildings in town and stuff, some of them only have one exit out, some have 2 exits out. Is it gonna be required that you have to have 2 exits out of a building, or how will that work? Like, we got one building down here, we're getting ready to remodel, we're trying to decide on, you know, if we're gonna have 2 exits to get out of this building, or if we're gonna be able to put a ladder for an emergency exit out a window, or how we're gonna be able to work.
A lot of that is grandfathered. If it's a commercial building and it's multifamily, for that remodel, it should truly have, whether the city's enforcing it or not, it should truly have a state release on it. And anybody from the state fire marshals, if they're driving through town, it looks like you're remodeling a multifamily structure in an apartment building, they can actually stop and require you to go get that state release. They aren't real big on fining people, but they can. They have the authority to do that. They have the authority to shut the job down until you get that state release.
I was just thinking that, just to, you know, I think some people feel that, that it's the beginning process of going from, you know, something that was the homeowner's responsibility to their own home, their own property, of you know, in a sense, the blue collar worker having discrimination, but, or that's the wrong word, but the way that, you know, it goes from blue collar to white collar, and that's what I think people are concerned about. You know, when you Shane, have read through all the legal terms and history of all of it, a lot of people who just want to fix up something, do something that's simple, you know, we're afraid, I think a lot of people feel this way, that they're concerned that it shifts from something that's common sense to over